Welcome to the AVAIL podcast, where we dig deep and talk about the art of leadership. As always, I'm your AVAIL host, Virgil Sierra, lead pastor of Vertical Church, aka Iglesia Vertical in South Florida. We are one church, two languages. And here at AVAIL, we love connecting with amazing leaders. Today, we're sitting down with Pastor Rodney Gage. Rodney is the founder and CEO of The Winning Family. And in this episode, we'll be talking about the Family Shift Academy, a special mentoring program for parents which equips church leaders as they help mentor parents in their communities effectively raise spiritually strong, resilient kids. Pastor Rodney, we are excited to get into this conversation. How are you doing today, my friend?
I am doing great, as always. It's so good to be with you, Virgil. And man, you're one of my heroes. Thank you for your inspiration, your friendship, and I just love you and your whole family. You are just an amazing group of leaders making a great impact there in South Florida, and so thankful for how God uses you to inspire so many.
Amen. Thank you. So I appreciate that. The feeling is quite mutual. Love you and Michelle and what God is doing in your church, in your family, and of course, the new things that He's placed in your hearts for this season. I want to get right into it today. I want to, you have a burden on your heart to solve the parenting crisis in America, and you have a heart for the family. I know this because of books that I've read that you've written, conversations we've had, and of course, seeing how the Lord is kind of developing and unpacking more in your heart for this. When did all this begin? When did God begin to put on your heart this desire to help parents and families which are in trouble nowadays?
Well, Virgil, honestly, it started over 30 years ago, even pre-kids.
Wow.
Back in the day, I used to travel as a traveling youth evangelist. And one of the things that I did is I went into public and private schools. I had a school assembly program where I would go in and talk to young people in those type of settings, and to over 2,000 school campuses, over 2 million young people. And
Wow.
even then, it just really opened my eyes to seeing the struggles and the challenges, that so many young people were facing in their lives. And so that's really where I think my heart for young people, the next generation, really was birthed out of. But then fast forward, 30 years later, post kids now, we have adult kids. And I know I don't look a day over 30, but looking back now, over the course of time, what I have seen, and of course, like you've seen, and so many, we've seen this continual decline in our culture, especially in the spiritual and moral decline of our nation, and specifically how it has continued to manifest itself through the next generation. Gen Z is considered to be the most non-religious generation in the history of the world.
Wow.
And becoming more and more non-religious each and every day. And so when you think about where our young people are, and of course now post-COVID, with all of the identity issues that young people are struggling with, the mental health issues that so many young people are struggling with, of course, the social media challenges, the technology issues that weigh heavy on the hearts and minds of parents because of the negative effect and impact it's having on their children, grandchildren. Most parents, sadly and unfortunately, over the last 30 years have grown up. For most, they did not grow up in strong, healthy Christian homes,
Right.
especially with a married mom and dad.
Right.
And so therefore, when you talk to most parents today, who are just maybe starting the parenting journey, they'll be quick to tell you that they did not have good role models. They did
Right.
not have godly examples to serve as a kind of a North Star, if you will, to guide them in the parenting journey on how to raise morally, spiritually strong, resilient kids. In fact, Lifeway Research did a study recently and found that 78% of today's Christian parents, not non-church or unchristian, but Christian parents, 78% inside the church, Christian parents, admit to feeling completely inadequate when it comes to teaching spiritual and moral values and principles to their children.
Wow.
And so when you think about where young people are and where we are as a whole, and when it comes to the spiritual and moral decline of our nation, and then when you combine that with many parents who just do not feel like they have the confidence, the know-how, the skills, and the training on how to guide their kids, well, kids are just left on their own, and parents are just left on their own to figure it all out. And sadly and unfortunately, the outcome is not very good. So I kind of liken it to this example or illustration, Virgil. I always ask many parents the question, what is the single most important piece to a jigsaw puzzle? When you think about that, most people are thinking about a particular piece of the puzzle, maybe a missing piece. But the most important piece to a jigsaw puzzle is what? It's the box top. It's the
Uh-huh.
picture of what you're putting together.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So when you think about it, most parents are trying to raise children today and they have no box top. They have no picture. They have no sense of framework or reference as to what to do, how to go about doing it. And so therefore, just by default, they are just going with the flow and pretty much just doing what is perceived as normal when it comes to what all the other parents do. And so when you think about it, here's a reality. All of us get 168 hours per week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for young people, 42 of those hours are taken up through media. 35 of those hours per week are taken up through school and all their extracurriculars. And then, and this is if, and big if, they go to church, the church might get 1, potentially 2 hours per week. So who is spending time when it comes to helping our kids have a strong spiritual and moral foundation? And sadly and unfortunately, they're left on their own. And many parents are struggling when it comes to know what to do and how to do it. So that's why we came up with something we're really excited about to answer your original question,
Mm-hmm.
and why we feel such an urgent need to do something, Virgil, is most parents are basically crying out for help. They're,
Right.
they are they are inundated with information, but they're starving for wisdom. And they're
Wow.
looking for guidance. They're looking for a mentor. They're looking for somebody that can walk side by side with them in their parenting journey and actually give them a plan. We always say parents don't need prayer. I mean, they can always use prayer, but what they need more than prayer is an actual plan. So
Yeah.
we've given them a framework, a step-by-step plan that will help them serve
Mm.
as that North Star to build spiritually strong, resilient kids.
I love this. It's interesting, Pastor Rodney, because recently we did a parenting seminar in our church because people asked for it. Parents were just saying we need help. We need some guidance. I think you're scratching where the itch is, so to speak, and I think it's exciting to hear about what God's placed on your hearts, specifically with the whole the Family Shift Academy. Now let me take a step back regarding that. And let me ask you about your book. You authored a book called Family Shift, the 5-step plan to stop drifting and start living with a greater intention. What was the inspiration behind that book, and how does that connect to this whole puzzle, right, that is the Family Shift Academy?
Yeah, that book really came out of this just growing sense of urgency and burden as we begin to see just the spiritual moral decline and drift, if you will, in our culture. And so, and then also when you think about where the parents are drifting, they're kind of, like I said earlier, they're kind of just going with the flow. They're drifting, and many of them don't even realize they're drifting, but they're drifting away from God's original plan and purpose for the family.
Mm-hmm.
And so many parents embrace this whole notion that, well, I've got 18 years with my kids before they go off to college and, into adulthood. So I want to make the most of this time with my kids. And so what happens is that we say yes as parents to a lot
Right.
of good things.
Right.
Nothing wrong with any of those things. There are a lot of good things that we say yes to, that we spend time, money, it takes us away from church, travel ball, cheer competitions,
Sure.
gymnastics, list goes on and on and on. And before we know it, 18 years goes by, kids go off to college, and the spiritual and moral wheels, I mean, they literally come off. And kids, sadly and unfortunately, leave the faith. Many of them never return back to the
Right.
church
Right.
after they graduate from high school. And then parents are like, what happened? Where did we go wrong? And so what we want to do is we want to help parents avoid living with regret by shifting the drift. And how they can shift that drift is to learn ways that they can really be more intentional, so that those 18 years they can capitalize that and build a strong, healthy moral and spiritual foundation in the lives of their kids, so that the character of their kids and their grandkids
Mm.
is solid, so that when they go off to college and they're out there on their own living independently, those kids are secure in who they are in Christ. They know what they believe, why they believe it,
Huge.
and on top of that, there's a strong relational bond between parents and their kids, so that they know that mom and dad is not only there to support them and pray for them, but mom and dad is always there for them and will always continue to be that cheerleader in their life to support them and
Hmm.
encourage them along the way. So that's our prayer, is that we can see this shift begin to take place in our homes and families, and get back to what God's original plan is. Because I think a lot of us forget the fact that the family is the single most important, and
Yep.
it was the first institution ever created by God.
Hmm.
So, when you think about it, so goes the family, so goes the church. So the healthier our families are, the healthier our churches are. And so when you have dysfunction in the home and fragmentation in the home, you're going to see that fragmentation and dysfunction, and really kind of that scattered effect take place even in the church. And so I think that's where many churches right now are struggling on just trying to keep the families engaged, because at best, they might go to church once a month,
Wow.
and that's if they're really doing good.
Yep.
And we're not condemning parents, it's just the reality of all the things that are competing for time and attention. So we put together a book, Virgil, that just really kind of shared our hearts, but we actually introduced a framework. We call it the shift method,
Mm.
and we introduced this framework in the book. So we've decided to drill a little deeper than what even the book shares. And we are putting together an academy for parents. And it's, to my knowledge, one of the few of its kind, or maybe the only one of its kind, where parents are actually paired up with a mentor in the church. And those mentors are trained and certified to teach the shift method through either one-on-one or group mentoring in the churches. And that way, parents have somebody, a voice that they can go to, that is speaking into their life, that's walking them through a 13-week journey through that relationship, where they're being encouraged, equipped, held accountable. There's all kinds of assessments and exercises and things that parents are engaged in, and also that allows them to even engage and participate when it comes to those conversations they have with their own kids. So we can kind of walk through some of the framework if you'd like, but that's just kind of the heart and soul of why, we put together this academy, because we feel like parents are crying out. There's a crisis, quite frankly, in the realm of parenting in our country.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that now more than ever we need initiatives like this. And I would like you to unpack a little bit the framework. You mentioned the shift method or the shift effect. That mentoring parents can have on their kids and their families. Talk to us a little bit about the framework.
Yeah. So, we like to always say it this way. You start with the end in mind. And so we always encourage parents, no matter where you are, it's never too late to start, to push, restart. A lot of times you'll hear parents say, well, I needed this 10 years ago, or before my kids, hit those teenage years. Well, I understand. And of course, we'd all like to go back and reverse time, but you can always start where you are.
Yeah.
You can start, I like to say it this way: the difference between where you are and where you desire to be is what you know.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't become who you need to be by remaining who you are. So start with where you are and take a hard look and assess with where would we like to go? What do we envision as a family? What do I envision for my children, as a parent? And so when we start thinking futuristic and think about the end in mind in terms of who we want to be as a parent, who we want our children to become, then at the next step is we have to start unpacking ways that we can actually start building on that foundation to get us where we want to go, which leads us to, and it's an acronym which stands, so S is start with the end in mind. The H stands for hold the core values. So this is where parents have the opportunity to start laying the groundwork and building into those character qualities by establishing core values that are really the non-negotiables for their family. In other words, these are the things that parents will identify and embrace and
Mm-hmm.
embody that really defines what is most important to them as a family, because that will help shape and guide the priorities that they begin to use to say no to the good things so they can say yes to the best things. And then the I in the word shift, it stands for identify your GPS. And basically what that means is that there's goals, there's passions, and there's struggles. So the goals for the family, and then identifying the passions with each person within the family, especially our kids, and then helping them discover their strengths. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes those strengths are found in their weaknesses, all help shape the identity and overall impact of their future. And so rather than kids going off to college and not knowing what they want to do with their life, or changing their major 2 or 3 times because they're still unsure about what they want to do,
Right. Right.
parents parents can help guide them by identifying clear goals and objectives as a family for the kids, helping shape that through their passions, and ultimately honing in on their strengths. And then the F stands for find life-giving friendships. So as the old saying goes, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Mm-hmm.
So we ask every parent to help their kids do a friend inventory and ask the question, who are my closest companions? Who do I spend the majority of my time with? Because those friends are going to ultimately shape who they become. So we have to make sure that our kids are having the right reinforcements in their lives, and making sure that their friends also share those same core values. So there's an alignment in the relationships that they're spending time with. And then the last, of course, is the T, which stands for teach by example. So at the end of the day, the parents have to lead the way, they have to model the message, and they have to embody and embrace, a lifestyle that becomes a legacy for their children. Because we always share with parents, when it comes to a legacy or inheritance, an inheritance or a legacy is not something you leave for your kids, it's something you leave in your kids.
Wow.
So all of these things, and this is just a very high view of what we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
here, but this kind of serves really as the heart and soul of the shift effect or shift method. And even before we get into the shift method in our academy, we actually spend the first few weeks just focusing in on the parent so that we are not repeating old generational curses or dysfunctions from the past.
Right.
And we can learn a lot about who we are as parents by reassessing some things about our own lives and why we approach things the way we do. And that has shaped our perspective on raising kids. And then once we get a firm understanding about a lot of things concerning who we are as parents, then we can put the focus on our kids and on our family so that at the end of the day, we are moving forward and ultimately becoming over time the family we know that God wants us to be, so that we can have a greater impact with our lives and through our family for generations to come. So it's a generational effect and impact that we want to see take place, and kind of see that shift of the drift that we talked about earlier that's taking place in our nation.
Yeah, that's good. I'm curious, Pastor Rodney, from your perspective, why do you think it's important for the church to be a part of this? In other words, I'm on the same page as you, and I really believe that the church plays a role in restoring today's family and restoring, the relationship between parents and their kids. Talk to me a little bit about that connection, the church and the family.
Absolutely. Well, the church is the support piece. The church is the place that provides it doesn't replace the family, it supports the family. And so the parents can't just push the kids off onto the church and say, hey, y'all help us out over here. They have to do that at home. But the church comes alongside, and they're partnering with the family, partnering with the parents, and say, hey, together, we're as a community, as a spiritual family, as a body of Christ, we're in this together because we're stronger, we're healthier, we're better together. And then in every church, there are people whom God has raised up that need to give back. In other words, they need to reach back and pull others up because they've already been through this process
That's good.
themselves. So who better to train, disciple, nurture, encourage, and shepherd parents than other parents who've already gone through this parenting journey? So what we want to do is we want to take parents who have a heart for the family, who have a heart for the next generation, who understand the challenges and all of the struggles that parents are facing. Well, what we want to do is we want to have pastors and youth pastors, church leaders help
That's good.
identify who those potential candidates are in the churches, and then let us train them so that they have a good, solid framework to be able to use and leverage as they walk alongside these parents through the Family Shift Academy. And then that way, you've got parents who have been matched with trained mentors who are sharing and doing this parenting journey together, so that parents don't feel alone and isolated out there trying to figure it all out by themselves.
That's good. That's good. Before we tell people where they can kind of find out more about this and how they can lean into all the tools and resources that you offer, and even this program, I want you to address parents right now that are struggling to raise spiritually strong, resilient kids. They're struggling to really see their family thrive. Maybe there's some middle schoolers or some high schoolers at home, or a combination, and they're struggling to see breakthrough in this area specifically of spiritual and faith and morality and kind of discipleship of their children. What are a couple pieces of advice, Pastor Rodney?
Number one, parents need to know that they're doing better than they think they are. It's been said that when you don't have any momentum in your life, it makes you look worse than what you really are. And a lot of parents feel like they're not getting anywhere. They have no momentum. They're struggling. They're not seeing the breakthrough. But if their heart and in their intentionality, they're doing the right things, maybe they're not seeing the fruitfulness of that. I just want to say, first and foremost, you're doing better than you think you are. I just encourage parents, embrace the sowing and reaping principle, because it's true. Keep sowing. Don't get tired of doing good, as Galatians teaches us, because in due season you will reap a harvest. So you're doing better than you think you are, and number two, you matter more than you think you do.
Come on.
So I just want to encourage parents, don't give up. You are literally looking or listening, depending on how you're processing this podcast, to an answer to prayer. I
Mm-hmm.
gave my life to Jesus at the age of 18. I have three older brothers that all committed their lives to Christ in their mid 20s. All four of us were preachers' kids. Come on, Virgil.
Mm.
We were prodigal preachers' kids.
Wow.
All four of us came back to the Lord. My
Wow.
parents, they prayed for us. They did the right thing. They of course, they weren't perfect. Like no parent is perfect, right?
Right.
But they prayed, they were faithful, they were steadfast. We chose to rebel. We chose to go off and do our own thing. We
Mm.
chose to go out and experiment. We chose to go see this other side of the world that we always said was bad and forbidden. We wanted to go try it out and see what it was like. And we had to learn the hard way that, you know what our parents actually said was right and true. And so God used, through various means of in circumstances, God used it all to bring us back to a place in right relationship with the Lord. And I just want to encourage parents, don't throw in the towel. Don't feel like it's too late, or
That's good.
don't beat yourself up. God's mercies are fresh and new each and every day. Romans 8:1. Listen, God is not standing there condemning you and pointing his finger at you as a parent saying, what a loser. You should have done this. You could have done that. We have to realize that with God, all things are possible.
Amen.
And so God is with us. He's for us. And he wants to help parents win the spiritual battles that they're facing, because the battle that we're facing, Virgil, is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
We're fighting for the souls of our kids, the next generation, our grandkids, and we're fighting for our families. So I just want to encourage parents, keep on
Hmm.
keeping on. Don't lose heart. Keep doing the right thing. God's going to bless it. He's going to honor it in due season. You'll reap a harvest.
Yeah, this is a fight worth fighting. If there's a fight worth fighting, it's this one. And I would love, Pastor Rodney, if you can just share the information with all of our AVAIL audience of how they can lean in and find out more information about this parent mentoring program, for churches and ministries. And where can they go online? How can they find more information?
Well, we're looking to launch this in early 2025, Virgil. We're really, really excited about it. And
Yeah.
we're looking for about a dozen to maybe 24 churches that would be willing to come alongside and kind of be what we refer to as early adopters into the program. And so if you would like to be a part of the waiting list and learn more about how you can be a part of that, we would love to engage and have some conversation. You can join the waiting list. Just go to thewinningfamily.com and you'll see there at the top, it'll say the Family Shift Academy. You can sign up, just put your info there, and then we'll be in communication with you. And you'll be the first to learn as soon as it goes live and we're able to begin making this available to churches. And so we're really excited about it. But yeah, just go to thewinningfamily.com
Mm-hmm.
and join the wait list there, and we'll notify folks when we're ready to get it up and running, and allow them to be the first to implement it into their churches.
Beautiful. Thewinningfamily.com, everybody. It all depends on when you're listening to or watching this podcast, because if we're already in 2025, it could be that it's already rolling and you can get on board. Again, thewinningfamily.com to get more information about this special mentoring program for churches to help parents raise and disciple strong, healthy, spiritually healthy and resilient kids. I want to mention real quick, Pastor Rodney, to our AVAIL audience, if you're not subscribed to the AVAIL Journal, I don't know what you're waiting for. The AVAIL Journal is a great Christian leadership magazine with great content, great leaders. Pastor Rodney has been a contributor many, many times. AVAILjournal.com, AVAILjournal.com is how you can get a free trial subscription with us of the AVAIL Journal. And I know, Pastor Rodney, you have an article coming up in the October edition of the AVAIL Journal. It's called The Home Advantage, a spiritual game plan for an eternal legacy, connected to your heart, for the family, for the home, for parents and kids. to win. Do you enjoy when you contribute to the AVAIL Journal articles?
Absolutely. It is, one of my favorite go-to resources. It's always so helpful because of the interviews and articles. And it's also what's cool about it is just the variety of
Yeah.
perspectives in the realm of leadership. And there's so many inspirational stories, from people who, the realm of business,
Hmm.
marketplace influence and impact, as well as, church leaders. And so it really gives a great balanced perspective from a lay person, from a business person, as well as to a church leader. And so I love it. It's just always rich with great leadership wisdom and nuggets to always build upon. I cheat a lot of times and incorporate it into my sermon preparation.
I love it. I wanna ask you a question more, kind of on a personal line here, Pastor Rodney, because I've seen you throughout these last couple of years as your kids have taken important steps in their lives as well. On your journey with your children, um, how does it feel to see them in kind of in the steps that they're taking right now in this season of their lives?
Man, we are having the ball. We are having the time of our lives right now because, I mentioned at the very beginning, or when I talked about the shift framework there, where start with the end in mind.
Hmm.
We're doing that right now as we speak, Virgil, because Michelle and I are new grandparents. We have two
Wow.
grandsons now. And so we're asking ourselves questions now in the grandparenting season of like, what kind of grandparents do we want to become?
Wow.
What do we want to be known for in the eyes of our grandsons and our future grandchildren? So again, you don't outgrow this. Parenting is just one of these perpetual things. But
Yep.
we love right now seeing the fruitfulness of our three children. Our two oldest are married and have two little boys. Our oldest has a 1 year old, and our next to the oldest daughter has a 6 month old. And then our son Luke, he's still taking resumes. He's single, but he's living in Nashville, Tennessee. He's a singer songwriter, and so all three of our kids are living for the Lord, making a difference. One's in the marketplace, one is in the ministry, and one is leveraging the area in the entertainment arts and what they're doing to make an impact for the Lord. And so it's really cool for us as parents just to see how God has used them,
Yeah.
and we couldn't be more proud.
I love that. I love that. I love that. So I'm going to finish off. I like to do every once in a while kind of rapid response questions, Pastor Rodney. So no thinking, just kind of quick response, simple little questions here. Here's the first one. Here's the first one. What do you like to do for fun?
I love to run, which is crazy. So I'm a runner,
All right.
and we live on the lake. So I love going out on the lake and just being out in the water and taking in the sunshine and the
Very
water.
good.
I just love it.
Very
Fishing,
good.
anything water related, I'm all in.
All right. What's your favorite cuisine?
Ooh, I got to go with Mexican food.
All right.
I
All
mean, you
right.
little chips and salsa, enchiladas, rice and beans,
Muy
and
bueno.
Tex-Mex specifically.
You like the Tex-Mex. All right. That's good. That's
Oh
good.
yeah.
What makes you laugh?
Oh my goodness. Probably myself. of all the bloopers that I'm known for. I put my foot in my mouth so many times, fumble over things. I'm thinking, how in the world did I just say that, or why in the world did I just do that? And so, but no, my kids will often laugh at me because like, Dad, do you know you just did this, or Dad, did you realize you said that? I said, you're kidding me, but no, I love being with our kids. They make me laugh, and
Yeah.
just being able to just enjoy life. Not take life and take yourself so serious.
That's good. I like that. As we wrap things up, Pastor Rodney, what's a final thought or word you want to leave us with?
I heard a statement many, many years ago. In fact, we'll give credit where credit is due. I think it was Andy Stanley that made the statement originally, but basically the statement goes, your contribution to this world may not be something you do, it might be someone you raise.
Wow.
And I just thought, wow, because at the end of the day, there's no greater assignment, there's no greater success than what we achieve through our family and leaving that legacy and leaving that mark on the lives of our children and grandchildren. So that's just something that I want to share and use that as a source of inspiration for parents, grandparents, other leaders that are listening, because at the end of the day, it's your greatest ministry, is not church buildings and,
Yeah.
budgets and baptisms and numbers. And, at the end of the day, all of that is meaningless if you lose your family. So, the greatest ministry is in the home. It's in our relationships with each other. And so, I believe the strength of a pastor's ministry is birthed out of the strength of the family
That's
relationships.
good.
And so I just want to encourage, anybody whether it's a marketplace leader, local church leader, the greatest area of success is really found in our homes. So let us just continue to strive to be the family that God has called us to build and to raise up, and allow that to be the legacy that God uses from generation to generation.
There it is, everybody. Pastor Rodney Gage. Remember, thewinningfamily.com is the website. Pastor Rodney, on behalf of the AVAIL team, your friends, Martijn van Tilborg, Dr. Sam Chand, we are so proud of you, excited to see what God's going to do with this new program, the Winning Family Academy. We're excited, and we bless you, and we thank you for your efforts to keep making a difference.
Thank you, Virgil. Blessings to you.
Hey, everybody, I hope you've been encouraged by this episode. As always, thank you for joining us for this episode of the AVAIL podcast. For more leadership resources, check us out at theartofleadership.com, and make sure to claim your free trial subscription of the AVAIL Journal by going to availjournal.com. As always, I'm your AVAIL podcast host, Virgil Sierra. Muchas gracias. Thank you for connecting with us to learn the art of leadership here on the AVAIL podcast.